Civil Alert, this is your host, Sind Asha, broadcasting here live on this Thursday night, More Insight edition, November 21st, 2013, live and direct from North America, Tierra Estados Unidos, América del Norte. Thank you so much for tuning in. And like always with Civil Alert, you know we have to bring you some good information because you know it is typical protocol to touch base upon history, hidden history, that nice, good, real truth, heritage, culture, commerce, politics, current events, metaphysics, health, national principles, the whole gamut, because everything is hand in hand and everything is full circle. Tonight, we are going to talk about 12 Years a Slave, a hidden history movie analysis with Brother Amani Day. 12 Years a Slave was the autobiography that was penned by Solomon Northup. It was actually published in 1855, and as many of you know, a movie was made based upon that autobiography that launched in the theaters all over the nation this month. And there's been a lot of buzz about the film, and in certain cases, many people are disappointed. Some are saying, like, no, they need to stop making these type of movies, just get over it. And this is coming from some of our own people, and it is coming from some Albions, what is now known as Europeans. Some people are like, yes, I am happy that Steve McQueen, the producer, made that film because it's shedding light on the hidden history in a codified form. Every time I think about the word code, I'm thinking about those United States codes. I'm thinking about slave codes, black codes. Everything is always codified. But it's in those codes where you have to go in and use the keys to unlock the locks. So tonight, Brother Amani Day is going to be here so that we can talk about different scenes within the movie. We're going to look at this movie from a historical context. For all of you all that have been seeking, and if you've been in the life for a while, you know exactly what the movie represented and what the movie reaffirmed. In a sense, it blatantly reaffirms what the illustrious Prophet Noble Drew Ali had brought all of the Asiatic people back in the early 1900s, where he said, "Come, all ye Asiatics, to learn the truth about your heritage and your birthright. Know that you're not Negro, colored, or black." This goes back to also to what Taj always discussed about how the slavery really happened. In the movie, you all will take notice of there's a lot of foreshadowing where it's showing Solomon being enslaved, but then he's going back to the position and what he was or where he was at before the Great Fall. So tonight we're going to highlight what actually occurred. Who was who? What was going on in the country during that time period in 1841 in the area that is now styled as Saratoga Springs? What was going on where Solomon was actually being addressed by Mr., Sir, distinguished by Europeans? What is going on with the whole concept of how movies are orchestrated? Is it really so that in certain cases, who we may think that is being positioned as albino/Europeans, were those really the British Moors? But, you know, given how the history has been relayed to us, the thought of, for most of us to think that, oh, there were a lot of Moors from Britain that were actually here side by side with brothers and sisters that were Aboriginal and indigenous to here. Sometimes it's kind of like a confusing concept because we've been taught for so long that all of the people in Europe are actually albinos. And I bring this up because one thing that I noticed on the Facebook page for the movie, there were quite a bit of Europeans that were upset about the movie. And one thing that I picked up is that I think that certain Europeans may have been upset about the movie because for some of them, they may know the truth in that there were a lot of albino Europeans that were enslaved as well as some of the Moors being enslaved. So when you start talking about things like the, what is it, I want to say the Shays Rebellion or the Beacon, I may be saying that incorrectly, but if anybody can correct me on that, feel free to press 1, because as you all know, I am an avid student. I'm still learning. But I recall that there was a rebellion in the Virginia area where there were albinos as well as Moors that actually came into union to raise up against those that were enslaving them. So for some of the Europeans, I wonder if they were really upset because they know that the whole truth is not truthfully being told. One thing that I did notice about the film is that there were some things that were in the book that actually wasn't represented in the film. Back last year, I mentioned the autobiography of Solomon here on the show, and that was in connection to what Taj was speaking of when he always talks about how that old man river, which is that Mississippi River, when they start heavily talking about slavery and the ships and how the ships disappeared, those ships didn't disappear. A lot of those ships are the same old vintage ships, those steamboats that were sailing up and down the Mississippi River. A lot of those ships are what was called the prison ships that were housed all up and down the East Coast, especially with an emphasis on the coast over there by that Hudson Bay. And those prison ships were actually there housing albino Europeans. And that was heavily around the time period after the during the American Revolution and a little thereafter. But, that's a whole another topic with that. So I had brought up Solomon's autobiography when Taj was just talking about and paralleling it to show that that Mississippi River was a major, major thoroughfare, a waterway of transport up and down. So, in saying this, I do recommend that you all go and listen to Paul Robeson when he's singing Old Man River. Listen to those lyrics. And what is so dynamic about Paul Robeson is that, yes, he was an actor, and yes, he was a singer, but he also had a background in law, and he knew his history. He knew about what was going on in those colonies that's called Carolina, because that was where his peoples were from. Yes, that area, the same home of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So, without any further delay, I'm going to bring Brother Amani Bey on. Have your pens and your paper ready, because this is going to be a full flow discovery. Islam, Amani?
Islam, can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Welcome back to Civil Alert. How you doing and how you feeling tonight?
Oh, I'm okay. I just want to let you and the listeners know that I'm here with my 2-year-old daughter. So she caught a cold, and so I may be trying to do multitask here. So my wife will come later, but just to let the family know that she's here, so you may hear coughing. So I just want to let you know that. Okay.
Oh, it is all good. It's all good. So she's here to get all of the good vibes with the hidden history vibes. So it's all good. Yes.
Yes. And so let's just get right into it. Let's dive right into this. And sorry for the delay here. I know we got a kind of a late start, unfortunately, but better late than never here.
Oh yeah.
So yes, let's kind of get into the topic at hand. And the movie 12 Years a Slave, the title of the movie, and we're going to just take important, powerful statements that were made in the movie and use those statements as launching pads to cover those powerful statements, which are issues during that time, during ancient times, and currently issues that connect with us now. Firstly, we deal with the title of the movie, 12 Years a Slave. Okay? And I think at least the advertisement that I have of that movie, you have the Asiatic male in a running posture, as if he's running, and then the title above that image, 12 Years a Slave. So we can basically take from that title that the word slave is being applied to that Asiatic. So we can basically take that that was the intent of the creators of the ad and obviously of the movie, correct?
Right, correct.
So we must first, before you even dive into the subject matter of the movie, we must analyze the title. Okay? So we have an image of an Asiatic, and above that image of the Asiatic, we have the word slave. So which means that they're applying that word to that Asiatic. We have to ask this question: is that an accurate application of the word to that Asiatic? Can we say that Asiatic was indeed a slave? That's the question that we haven't even asked ourselves, maybe in our lifetimes and during our parents' and grandparents' lifetimes, because people throw that word and apply that word to us. And we, without doing any analysis or any confirmation, we just accepted the title.
Right.
We were slaves. We are the slaves. And it is a global application. So no matter where you travel to, I mean, I travel many places, whether you're in Europe or you're in a place that's currently called Africa. I remember when I went to Africa, the place Monterey called Africa now, back in 1995. I went there with Dr. Ben. He used to give these tours. I went with Dr. Ben in 1995 to do a research tour. And what was funny was that we arrived, and we stayed in many different places there doing our research, and down in the south, in Aswan. You see all these Asiatics.
Right, that's true.
So, now, of course, prior to going there, the media images of the people in that area are not that heavily melanated. They look like, Mubarak, the former president, right?
Right, exactly.
So we get all these images, that part of the world, that's what they look like, but when you go there, totally different. Now, I'll never forget this. I was walking, and there was an Asiatic sister there, and one of the so-called Arabs said to me, he said, don't worry about her. She's actually not from here. She's from Jamaica. And so, so they're taking part in the game as well. You see, so where you have this image, and they call them, there's a word that they use in Arabic to put them in a servile position. Basically, it's the equivalent of saying slave in English.
Right.
And it's the same phenomenon there. And so you hear, it's a global phenomenon. But now let's just look at the etymon of